Yep. Hello, one and all out there in YouTube land. Uh, this is Kenoshi Abominita here with Project Console, episode 37. Uh, episode name 3 times 1 equals 7. Before we get into our topics, I'd like my panelist member to introduce himself.
Hello, I'm Mr. Red Fox, owner proprietor BS Busters, and I'm glad to be on another cast.
All right, glad to have you. Hello, one and all.
All right.
So our first topic will be. I'll dive right into it. Final Fantasy Rebirth Part 2 was announced last Thursday. And, as some of you might know, I'm not a huge fan of Final Fantasy 7. I tried playing the original game several times and never could get past Midgard. Just, I don't know, some reason it just didn't have it. Just didn't have it in me to slog through that game. Uh, I thought the characters were kind of annoying. I thought most of the characters were kind of annoying, and it just didn't grab me like say Final Fantasy VI or Chrono Trigger or some of Square's older JRPGs. But what are your thoughts on it, Mr. Red Fox?
Um, okay. I'm one of those people that originally hated Final Fantasy VII. Not because of the quality of the game, but because it basically was the first Final Fantasy that wasn't on a Nintendo console. So I was hating. I admit it. No BS, and I was hating. Um, since then, like 3 or 4 years after it came out, I eventually played the PC version of Final Fantasy VII. I didn't know at the time that the PC port of Final Fantasy VII was one of the worst ports of all time.
Yeah.
So I was not really impressed. Since then, I've gone back and I've played the like once I got a PS2, one of the fat PS2s that were backwards compatible. I've since gone back and played Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9. And I can tell you right now that even though I was hating on 7, 7 is just kind of like it's ultimately kind of like a ripoff, a copy of a lesser copy of Final Fantasy 6, which sounds like a bad thing, but Final Fantasy 6 is arguably the best Final Fantasy game of all time.
Yeah.
So if you're a lesser copy of a masterpiece, you're still pretty damn good.
Right.
Despite Final Fantasy VII's shoddy um, animations and a lot of the characters being lesser versions of Final Fantasy VI characters, um, instead of espers, you have magicite. They're functionally the same damn thing. Um, like if you go beyond the haterade of just I don't like this because I wasn't on a Nintendo console. Final Fantasy VII is just a lesser version of Final Fantasy VI. Like if 6 is a 96, 97, Final Fantasy VII's like a 89, 90.
I think the premise of it sounds interesting. I'll probably at least play the through the original. Obviously, I'm gonna cheat my way to the end because I want to
Yeah,
just
play it with a trainer. You'll have much more fun.
I want to experience the story and stuff because
Yeah.
the premise sounds interesting, especially after hearing you describe it. Uh, but I know that the remake has had some mixed reactions
Mm-hmm.
with people. Like there are people who love the fact that they took a different approach to the game. They like the fact that they're changing things up a little bit. Um, and then there are some people that are they're like you betrayed the story that was Final Fantasy VII. Um, you you completely destroyed the point of the story by creating this weird universe. And
Yeah, I'm the second guy
yeah, so
because the
it's
changes that they made like fundamentally changed the story. Now, if they just said this is a Final Fantasy alternate reality, like altered, I wouldn't say anything. But to call this a remake and you're fundamentally changing aspects of the characters, that's a problem. It's like if someone made a Chrono Trigger remake and they're like, okay, we're gonna have Chrono talking to everyone, and like the moment where Chrono sacrifices himself when you the first time you actually physically fight Lavos in the Age of Zeal, that doesn't happen. You can actually change that event, and it's like that kind of, like in New Game Plus you can change that, but if you're playing through the first, second, third time you're playing that game, like Chrono has to die in order for the rest of the game to go forward. You get what I'm saying?
yeah,
So like that's basically what they did in the remake, and that's where I'm like, okay, this is some bullshit.
yeah, yeah. I mean, they're also remaking Crisis Core, Final Fantasy Crisis Core. It's called Final Fantasy Crisis Core Reunion from the you know PSP. Again, they completely destroyed the story of Final Fantasy VII, so the events of Crisis Core are going to obviously have to change to
Yeah,
match
yeah.
up with the story of Final Fantasy. Their bastardization of Final Fantasy VII.
Well, they
I
said they aren't
play.
doing that.
Oh, they
They
aren't
said
changing the
that they
story.
aren't changing Crisis Core. No, no. They're just
Oh,
gonna. It's a remake, but then they're gonna modernize it, make it probably, um, more modern. But they're not gonna change that story.
oh, okay.
Um,
So
which
Zach,
is
so Zach's
good.
still, so Zach's still gonna die, but it's gonna be kind of superfluous because of what's going on in Final Fantasy VII.
I mean,
Anyway,
how can I put this? Think of it like Kenobi, right?
yeah,
Nothing that happens in Obi-Wan Kenobi on Disney Plus fucking matters because no matter what character developments that happen for Obi-Wan Kenobi and all these other characters, Darth Vader has to think that his wife died and his children died too. Okay?
yeah,
Obi-Wan Kenobi is going to be one of a few people that know that the Skywalker children lived,
yeah.
and they're eventually going to meet on the Death Star, and Obi-Wan Kenobi's going to take a look and see Luke and realize, haha, our master plan is still in place. Right? Talk some shit to Darth Vader, get cut down. Darth Vader be like, holy shit. Like, that's kind of the flaw. I mean, the issue, I mean, that's the thing about Zack Fair. Zack Fair has to, like, in order, even with all the fucking weird ass changes they made in Final Fantasy VII's, the remake, you still have to keep in mind that Zack Fair is going to have to be in that soldier group with Sephiroth. Sephiroth is going to have to go there and eventually find the Genova project and the remains of Genova. Um, and he's going to have to go crazy and murder the shit out of the soldier group, mortally wounding Zack Fair. Like, those events have to happen in order for the rest of the game to happen. So they can't change that. This other shit, I don't know. They can do whatever they want. I don't care.
Well, the thing is, the weird thing about this is that the Final Fantasy remake Part Two, is exclusive to PlayStation 5.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why they didn't do the same with Crisis Core. With the Crisis Core reunion, I feel like, well, if you want to experience Final Fantasy VII, the entire thing, then make you figure Sony would go out of their way to make this exclusive too. Just to, it's like, well, if you want to experience Final Fantasy VII in all of its glory, you're gonna have to play it on PlayStation if want to play it right away. I don't know. I
I
don't like
think
timed exclusives, but I just think it would have been maybe smart to go all the way.
I personally think that uh, Sony is tired of spending. They're tired of spending money.
Yeah,
They're tired of spending money at. They're tired of spending money for exclusives that are eventually not going to be exclusives.
yeah, yeah. That's true.
Because Microsoft can afford to do that. Because even despite all the bullshit that's been going on, Microsoft has more money than God. Um, but Microsoft can do that. Uh, whereas Sony, like people forget Sony has like even though they sold off two of them, they still have like 12 divisions.
Yeah,
Some of them are profitable, some of them aren't, and they can't just be throwing money around like Microsoft can.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. And I mean, Crisis Core obviously isn't necessarily all that pivotal, I guess, in the story. If you
No,
want to
Final
experience the
Fantasy
whole
VII.
Final Fantasy VII story, it's kind of a side story. Kind of explains things a little bit more. I'm guessing. I haven't played the game, but
Yeah, I played about 10 minutes of it, and I'm like, I don't like this.
yeah,
I turned it off and deleted it from my hard drive.
yeah, yeah. So it's you can either take it or leave it, just depending on the kind of Final Fantasy fan you are. Uh, but I don't know. I obviously it's three. They're splitting it up to three parts. It looks like uh, Sephiroth is in your party, which I think it is either you or some. What's his name? Explained why that was. It was like a past event or something that they were playing, but
Did
I don't
you
know. That
repeat
was
that?
kind of um. For some reason, Sephiroth is like in the part two of Final Fantasy VII is in your and Rebirth is in your party. I think it was either you
That wasn't me.
or it was somebody explained that it was that the reason he was in your party is because he was it was taking place during a past event.
Oh
So
yeah. Basically, there are points in Final Fantasy VII where, um, because Cloud absorbed Zack's memories,
yeah,
you see basically like Sephiroth is in your party, and you like Cloud thinks it's him, but it's Zack Fair. He's
oh
reliving
okay,
Zack Fair's memories of when they were in Soldier.
oh
Because
okay,
Sephiroth used to be like one of the members of their squad before he
yeah,
lost his fucking mind.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I played Final Fantasy VII Remake. I played a little bit through it. I got to the reactor. I wasn't a huge fan of the combat. I was like, you know, yeah, pick a lane, kids. Either this is gonna be RTS or um, not RTS. This is gonna be standard
A
JRPG
real time
combat.
action combat game, or
Uh,
it's going to be turn based. I think they could
yeah,
have done
turn
both.
based. Yeah, yeah. I just didn't like how they tried to do both. I just didn't like how they handled it. I thought it was I thought it felt clunky, but I
Yeah,
guess
I
there are
mean,
people who really like it.
because you're like dialing through menus, and then
Yeah,
you do your action, and then like personally, okay. For me, the best of both worlds, like the best modern version of a real time battle system, sorry, an active time battle system, is what you have in Xenoblade Chronicles X and 2.
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
instead of you having to, like, in the ATB in past Final Fantasies, your speed and other factors that affected your speed basically determined how quickly your turn would come. So,
Yeah.
conceivably speaking, same thing in Chrono Trigger. In Chrono Trigger, if you gave your fastest character the haste helm, which doubled their speed, they basically just could act and act and act and act and attack. Like, if you gave it to Chrono, who had the highest speed, he basically was unstoppable.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm just gonna let him just normal attack and kill everything. You know, so, and that's how the ATB works. Like, the faster your speed is, the higher your ATB rate repeat fills, and then you can basically just attack or do any action you want to do repeatedly. Now that's that's the ATB system. And the resource you had to deal with back in the day in that system is your ATB meter plus MP or TP or whatever. Like, time was the resource you were managing. In Xenoblade Chronicles, it's your cooldown. So basically,
Yeah.
generally speaking, the more powerful an ability is, the longer its cooldown. However, as you level up, you can get little passive abilities that lower that cooldown rate, which I'm okay with. But they didn't want to do that because that's like, even me describing that to some people, they don't fucking get it.
Yeah.
Or it's complicated. They don't want to put the time. People just want to point and just kill shit. So for those people, let them do what they want to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think my opinion, the best way they probably could have done it was like use a similar system that's used in Tails. How they
Mm-hmm.
kind of have a sort of mixture of real time strategy and turn based in their and how they and or real time combat and turn based in their system. Kind of it's kind of a merger between those, but the half-assedness of what they did with Final Fantasy VII Remake was just kind of annoying. It was like I
I think they could have had
this
both. I think they could have had
yeah
an action more like, kind of like Tails, where it's a like Tails. For your main character, in almost every Tales game, the main character is a melee character. So you're using a sword, or I think like one or two, you're a martial artist, so you're using fists and kicks, fists and feet, like, fisticuffs, martial arts.
yeah
Um, so it's more like a hack and slash, but it's like a 2D hack and slash on a 3D plane. Uh, Nothing wrong with that.
yeah
But they should have given people the option to have a more traditional action, a more traditional turn-based combat. But they didn't. So, you know, like, I played. I think they had a demo for this game, and I played maybe like 5 minutes of them. Like, this isn't for me. I moved on.
yeah yeah yeah. Um. So after belaboring that topic enough, let's go to our next topic, which is Xenoblade Chronicles Direct happening tomorrow. So the thing is, people were hyping up the idea of a general direct happening next week, and then Nintendo decided to troll everybody by announcing a Xenoblade direct tomorrow. So, either they could have a Xenoblade direct this week and a general direct next week, or this is just it. Just Xenoblade 3. I mean, this is their big game that's coming out next month. Um, it's kind of surprising because, Nintendo usually, they usually push games back, but they actually moved this game from September to July. So we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, as far as I know, a lot of people on the YouTube, in the game sphere. Oh, well, they're trolling us. No, y'all made the assumption that they were doing it right. Nintendo didn't say shit, so let's
Yeah.
get that out the way. Okay. There was no trolling. It's like a girl saying, "Hey, you want to come in for a drink or something?" and you in your heads think to yourself, oh, I'm gonna get some, when literally she just invites you in for some water or soda or something, or a nightcap, and then you go home. You made the assumption. She
Yeah,
did
that's
not
the
say that explicitly.
yeah, that's the problem. It's just we go through this all the time with
Well, gamers do
Nintendo.
it to themselves. Nintendo
Uh,
didn't. This is the one time where I'll
no,
say Nintendo didn't do shit. They did
no,
it.
no. What I'm saying is like what happens is that and it's probably just isn't Nintendo. I just tend to notice this a lot with Nintendo. It's like Nintendo doesn't say anything, and a bunch of fake or real leaks come out, and everybody's like, "Oh, Nintendo's gonna do something big here the next few days," you know, or like remember the Cranky Kong fiasco that happened several years ago? Was that like 2015?
I mean, like,
No, that was
I
20
wouldn't call that a
2014.
fiasco. It came out. It was the first Game Awards hosted by Jeff Keighley, and basically Jeff Keighley said Nintendo has a really big announcement. That's all Jeff Keighley said. For Nintendo, Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze was a big game for them.
I mean, it
It's
was a
all they it's
fiasco.
all they really had. It's like that was the one big game they had coming out for that holiday season.
I
So,
mean, I
I
mean,
mean,
it wasn't.
shit.
I mean, it wasn't really
Gamers were like,
fiasco.
"Oh, this is going to be great. It's going to be this, that, and the other." It's like, "No, you made that assumption."
No, it wasn't. They turned it into a fiasco for themselves. Essentially, they thought, oh, they're gonna announce the big new Zelda game, because Reggie had a Zelda pen, or or they were gonna announce the new Metroid game because Reggie was wearing some kind of Metroid pendant, and it's just kind of like, and then the announcement came, and now they're sore at Nintendo. Oh, Nintendo, how could you do this to us? You betrayed. It's like no, no, they didn't say nothing. You guys just assumed these things. I mean, I'm sure they have various Nintendo, Zelda, Mario pins laying around in their office. Like it's not what you guys create this headcanon thinking that your fan fiction is real, and then all of a sudden reality comes and crushes crushes your fiction. It's just
Exactly.
kind of like,
You
well,
know, they
I don't
hype
know what to
themselves
tell
up
you
about
guys.
they hype themselves up about bullshit where there's no evidence to support it, and then they're like, when it doesn't match their belief, they get angry. They're like it's like children.
Yeah, yeah. It's like also with the PlayStation VR when a bunch of people were sending death threats to some of the developers because games weren't coming out fast enough. Or I don't. I just I hear about because apparently there was this big massive leak for the Nintendo Direct. I didn't watch it because it's just like, well, it's probably BS. Either they're gonna have a Direct or they're not. Nintendo will either announce it or they won't. And I'm not going to give my hopes up because, you know, A, I have a lot of games to play at the moment, and B, there's a big Steam sale coming up in the next couple days. So, whatever.
I mean, not just that. It's just there's so much shit coming out this year,
Yeah.
like across everything. Okay, on the Switch, you've got the big game this year is Xenoblade Chronicles 30. Right.
Yeah.
It looks like that's what they're pushing is their big game this year. Is Splatoon 3 coming out this year too?
Yeah, it's coming out in September. They
Okay,
switched
so
places.
Splatoon 3 and Xenoblade Chronicles 3. All right. So those are their two big games this year.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm probably gonna get Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I'm not gonna get Splatoon 3 because I didn't like playing Splatoon 2 on just a
You just didn't,
single
yeah, you just
on
didn't
a
like
single screen.
it
I
kind
didn't
of,
like those controls.
yeah, butchered the experience without the gamepad for
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
base.
Splatoon is one of those games that really needs to be you need that dual screen experience, and if you don't have it, it just doesn't feel right to play it any other way. Xenoblade Chronicles 3, I mean, I hopefully it will play better than Xenoblade Chronicles 2, because 2 had a lot of really good ideas, but a lot of features that were stripped out from the previous 2 games. Hopefully, this third game they will have those features in there, like, you know, cosmetic costumes.
Yeah.
Um, the ability to aim for an enemy's various body parts.
Yeah.
You know, to cripple enemies in order to, you know, shit that we had in games, in other generations. And I don't just
Yeah.
mean the original Xenoblade. There were 2D top-down RPGs where you could aim for individual body parts of an enemy in order to do damage to them. Shit,
Yeah.
Chrono Trigger did that. Okay? This is not a new feature, but Xenoblade Chronicles, it was in X, it was in 1, but 2, they were like, we can't do that anymore. It's hard.
Yeah.
Really, I think
Yeah.
that game started life on the Wii U, and they were like, "Shit, we got to get it on the Switch," and they just didn't have time to
Yeah.
optimize it.
That game was clearly rushed. I mean, you said it crashed on you a couple times.
Multiple times, not even a
Multiple
couple,
times.
multiple
Multiple times.
times.
Um, I didn't have that problem, but doesn't mean it didn't happen. But I mean, yeah, the game was obviously rushed. Nintendo really wanted to get big games out um, for the Switch because they were screwed over by third parties. They
Yeah,
were
and they wanted to make sure that shit never happened again.
Yeah, so they were like, look, we're gonna actually push out our first party games. I think Mario Odyssey. I think that probably started off on the Wii U too. Like, I think Nintendo had a several year plan for the Wii U, but because it was such a commercial flop that they were like, oh, you know, we can't we can't continue with the Wii U, so we're just gonna have
Yeah.
to transform the Wii U into the Switch and
Make a shittier Wii
resell.
U, which is the Switch.
We're gonna resell all of our games with
Yep.
more features that probably should have been in the original game. Looking at Mario Kart Deluxe, and
Yeah. Shit that should
we'll
have been in
make,
the base game. Yeah.
and it'll print us money, and it did exactly that. Because
Yeah. Yeah, it did.
right
I
now
mean,
the
I'm
Switch
not.
might actually it's on its way or might be past the PS2 at this point.
I am not. Um. I'm not casting aspersions on Nintendo's business acumen. I'm not. Good for them doing well. Um, but problem with my problem with the Switch is that it's missing features that previous like even the Wii had a web browser
A decent web
and
browser
fairly
for the
decent,
time. Yeah,
and the Wii U browser was even better.
yeah,
And yet we don't have a web browser on the Switch.
yeah.
We barely. Did they finally add Netflix to the Switch?
I don't know. I mean,
Like you can
yeah,
stream your Netflix on the Switch.
yeah, no,
But the
I don't
Wii
think so.
and the 3DS had fucking you could the Wii and the 3DS
Yeah, Netflix.
had Netflix.
The Wii U had a lot of the stuff day one. It had not
It
only had
did,
Netflix, it had Hulu, it had Amazon Prime Video, it had I
and
think
Netflix came shortly
Netflix.
thereafter.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
Like, how the fuck do you have a tablet-like console and yet people can't have it next to their bed and watch their shit? Like,
yeah.
to me, it just feels like Nintendo was just like, look, we don't have time to do any of this shit. We got to get this out now.
Our investors are breathing down our throats. The argument is, the Wii U is pretty profitable for them. They had a super high attach rate, but again, it wasn't performing at the levels that
Numbers weren't
Nintendo.
enough. even think it was at that point. I don't even think it was the personally, and this is just my own supposition. I don't have any evidence to go with this. I don't even think with the Wii U. I don't think the pricing was even built on we're not making money. We're not making enough money. It was the critical reception, and it was a laugh. It was a laughing stock to a lot of people,
Yeah, I mean,
and
I
they
mean,
had to,
you gotta realize that a lot of these people in these companies, they do have egos to maintain, whether it's wrong or right. It's just,
well,
they don't.
I mean, this wasn't an ego thing. It's like if you have a product that even if it's selling well, it's a joke. That's kind of problematic because that's what happened to the Wii. The
Yeah,
Wii was very profitable for Nintendo, but that profitability it wound up towards the end of its life cycle being like a punchline.
yeah,
Um, like the Vita is derided as a joke. Now the people
yeah.
who had Vitas and enjoyed it, they're like, no, no, it was awesome. But to a lot of gamers, like, oh, the Vita, huh?
I mean,
You like
the
supporting failing game devices.
problem with the Vita is Sony just didn't support it. They just relied on
Yeah.
indie developers and third parties, which
And,
obviously,
I mean, Nintendo should have learned that lesson. Third parties don't give a shit about anything but themselves.
yeah, unless you're greasing their palms, they don't care. And there's, obviously Sony wasn't throwing up bags of money to get third party exclusive stuff or high quality third party exclusive stuff
Not for the
on their
Vita.
system. Not for the
Not for the
Vita.
Vita, no. You know, I mean, like I said, they all have their issues. There's no perfect console, okay? And if anyone tells you there's a perfect console, they're lying to you. Um, they all have their pluses and minuses. Me personally, like if I had a choice between the Switch and the Wii U, I would take the Wii U because I just think, as far as a console was, I just like the Wii U's features. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm not one of those. No, go ahead, Kenoshi.
I think for its functionality, especially out the gate. I mean, compared to the Switch, yeah, I'd probably agree with that.
I mean, I just mean in general. Like, okay, the ability for me to play a game. Oh, I'm stumped. Go to the internet browser. Go to GameFAQs. How do you do this? Or go to YouTube. Oh, so that's how you do it. Go back to the game. Can't do that on the Switch.
No.
Or hey, oh, I'm tired of playing this game. I'm gonna watch some Netflix. I could do that on the 3DS and the Wii U. Can't do it on the Switch.
Yeah.
Certain games running much better on the Switch. I mean, on the Wii U than the Switch.
Yeah. Yeah, like putting Breath of the Wild just seemed like a last minute decision because the way those menus, for example, in Breath of the Wild, the way those menus function, it seems like they would handle a lot better on a tablet like controller. Just
Yeah, I
just
mean, even the
saying.
Sheikah slate.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just I mean, don't say that too loud because
Some people
people
get
get
mad.
yeah,
Yeah,
some people get real emotional about that.
but I don't give a shit. Yeah, the Switch just. If you look at the Switch as the successor to the Wii U, it's kind of a shitty console. If you look at it as the successor to the 3DS, it's actually fucking amazing.
Yeah.
So to me, I look at the Switch as the successor to the 3DS. Because as the 3DS successor, it's amazing. You
Yeah.
know, very few gimmicks. And even the gimmicks that are there are underutilized. Like HD Rumble, it's there, but they don't do shit with it.
Yeah.
You know, by and large, they don't. They do nothing with it. It's like, oh, we have HD Rumble. Yeah, are you doing anything with it? No, it's just kind of just. It's just kind of there.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, for our next Um, I skipped the topic. This will be topic three. Persona. Uh, Persona might come to the Switch. Persona 5 Royals is rumored to come to the Switch. I found it kind of
I mean,
funny
that's
that it was
cool.
an, I found it kind of funny that it was announced first on Xbox before the Switch, but
I
I
mean,
guess
come
it's
on,
just
man. If you're a Nintendo gamer, Nintendo always gets second or third seconds.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
always like if you're a Nintendo gamer, like that meme that went around where David Hasselhoff was so drunk and he was eating the hamburger off the floor. That's how it
yeah,
is with a Nintendo being a Nintendo gamer. It's like, oh well, I'm
yeah.
hungry. Oh fuck, I'm eating this shit off the floor. That's how it is being a Nintendo gamer when it comes to third parties. Now Nintendo themselves with their first party games, by and large, except with the Switch generation where they just kind of said "fuck you," but by and large, generations before, it felt like going to a hidden corner diner where you were like they used to be big, now they're a bit smaller, but the food is always top notch.
Yep,
You're going
yep,
to be full. You know you're not going to be fucked over on the prices, and you're going to have a good experience. With the
yep.
Switch, it feels like they're cutting back on shit in order to pump up their money. The
The
food
Switch,
it's still good, but it's not quite as good as it used to be.
the Switch should be renamed to what's a Wii U. That's what it should be renamed to.
No, no, they should rename the Switches. Oh, it's like the Wii U, but shittier.
Wow,
Oh, you wanted the
wow.
gamepad. You wanted we're doubling down on the gamepad, but all the cool shit that the Wii U gamepad could do, we stripped that shit out. So
Wow.
really, I'm just playing games on a tablet, right? Yes, with a shitty GPU. Yes,
Oh man.
with no features. Correct, sir.
Uh,
If you
other than
mention
that,
that, some Nintendo fans get mad.
The Switch isn't that bad.
How dare you,
uh,
sir?
oh boy. But yeah, Persona may or may not come to the Switch. Who knows? It it doesn't really matter to me if it comes to the Switch or not. Except I'm gonna be picking it up on Steam. I also have a PS4, but when's the last time I turned on my PS4? Probably last year. I need to get rid
Yeah,
of this
same for
freaking
me.
game.
If I'm gonna get another version of Persona Royal, I'll probably get it on PC,
Yeah.
and it's been confirmed to come to PC, so I'll get it on PC so that I can cheat while I'm playing it.
Oh yeah.
Um, because that game is hard, and I want to cheat while playing it. Give myself a lot of money. Make
Yeah,
it
I
so
just
that
don't.
when I get items, I get a lot of them. So then when I have to do those missions where, you have to get X amount of MacGuffins, enemy drops in order to get something made at the store. Oh, I can just, get it once and then,
That's why
get 99 of
leaderboards are
them.
kind of pointless on PC. It's just kind of like people are cheating to
I don't
get
give a
to a
fuck
certain
about
score.
leaderboards. I don't play multiplayer games on PC, so I don't
No,
get personally, I don't give a shit about leaderboards. It's like, oh, so and so got this platinum. Who fucking cares? You know
no,
what the
I'm just
trophy
saying
is?
that
You
point.
played the game.
I'm just saying leaderboards are pointless on PC just because people just it's easy to cheat.
I mean,
Plus,
there's that, but there's also, I mean, like I think most PC gamers, unless you're playing real time strategy, don't care about shit like that.
yeah, yeah. I've never cared about leaderboards, even when I was because I just never really felt like taking the time to get that good at the game.
Yeah, that shit didn't start until Xbox, the original Xbox, and then Sony
Yeah,
picked it up. Like, you know, old school gamers don't give a fuck about shit like that. Old
that's
school gamers, the big thing with old school gamers was, did you beat the game? What happens at the end? Like that's all we cared about. We didn't care how you got to the end as long as you beat the game.
yeah. I didn't
Like
hear
the,
any. I was a kid, nobody really talked about completing or getting 100%.
Oh, really?
100%.
No, man.
And
That's
there
all
was
we
a
did back in the day.
yeah,
Like, if you played Contra, hey, man, what happens at the end? And then you try and beat the game just so that you could see if they were lying or not.
yeah. I mean, yeah. There was that. I'm just talking about you know the sort of completionist stuff, like because
Yeah,
there's
yeah, we
some
didn't.
games had a true ending because it's like you got to
Yeah,
get
we didn't.
everything to get the true ending.
Yeah, we didn't worry about that shit until that shit didn't come about in modern. I mean, there was always been niches that were into shit like that, but we didn't care about shit like that until the OG Xbox came out, and then later on Sony picked it up. And
Yeah,
I'm glad
no,
Nintendo hasn't really done that. Trophies and achievements and all that shit. I hate that shit. I'm like, just play your damn game and enjoy it. Like, why do you
no.
have to have fake accolades? You know.
Yeah, I kind of wish the trophies and achievements actually did something more than just accolades or whatever.
Useless swag.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's what
even
it
if it
feels
was
like.
like, I mean, the 3DS had something like that where if you had little accomplishments, you could get little outfits for your Mii's, which was kind of cool. But that was for you, like walking around, meeting other people, that type of shit. It actually, like, kind of meant something. But now, most of these trophies now are just like, this is just stupid. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
sorry, this is dumb.
getting certain trophies or certain achievement points could unlock a special suit or a special weapon or maybe a hidden level or something like that. I don't know. It's just something else besides just, well, you got this achievement.
Anything aside from the lazy ass bullshit we got now, which is nothing except, oh, I platinumed it. What does that mean? Like, here's how far removed I am from people telling me they platinumed the game. I don't even know what the fuck that means. I'm like, I guess it means you beat it in its entirety, but why are you
Yeah,
telling me about that? I don't fucking care.
yeah,
I mean, are you gonna give me some money because you platinumed it? Then why the fuck are you telling me this?
yeah. I don't get it either.
I platinumed this game, okay, and what point are you trying to make?
So our next topic, Dragon's Dogma 2 is announced. Have you played the first Dragon's Dogma? I've played a little bit of it.
Played it and beat
Uh,
it.
oh,
Actually,
okay.
Dragon's Dogma is one of those games that like has some really interesting. Dragon's Dogma has a lot of really interesting ideas, but they aren't very well executed.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I've been since the second one got announced and thinking about firing it up and playing through it.
Yeah, it's
So
like it's Dragon's Dogma was essentially it was essentially Capcom's take on D&D.
yeah,
And you're on this island and you create your character and you do a little fishing village and this dragon comes and your character tries to fight it. You literally hit it like one or two times and then the dragon's like, I'm tired of fucking around, and steals your heart. And that's the opening of the game. You have to fight your way. You have to do all these, and like the game. The problem with Dragon's Dogma is that the the main story, the main quest, like the game will give you a quest, say go here, do this. But there's also a lot of hidden quests that you're constantly doing that the game
yeah,
doesn't even tell you you're doing. So there's a point in the game where you basically have to get a companion. Which if you're a male character, it's a female character. If you're a female character, it's a male character. And you've been building a relationship with these characters just by talking to them, doing quests for them. They don't tell you this, so you might like, okay, so now I got to get a companion of the opposite gender. I'm gonna get the person I like. No, you got to go with this person that you've just been doing some side quests with
yeah,
because that's what
yeah,
they want you to do for like shit like that. The problem with Dragon's Dogma is that there's a lot of gameplay mechanics that are very obtuse and they don't tell you that they are important or a part of the game. Aside from that, Dragon's Dogma actually has some really cool shit too. Like the ability to grab onto enemies. Because there's certain bosses where grabbing onto them and holding them down actually serves a purpose. It does something. Um, so there's some cool shit in the game. Um, so I'm not gonna just poo poo on the game just saying, oh, this is terrible. There's some good stuff in Dragon's Dogma. The problem is, um, you know,
I mean, it was their
there's
first
a
attempt. Probably a lot of first game, first game bugs. Hopefully, they learn from it when it
well, it
comes
wasn't
to.
particularly buggy. It was just janky.
Well, I mean
Like
by
moving around in the game's kind of janky.
yeah, what I mean by bugs is the janky. Uh,
No,
first game of its kind. Well, not really of its kind, but of
the first time they made something like that, because
yeah.
it has a lot of parts and they don't come to they. It has Dragon's Dogma has a lot of parts and they don't come together in one cohesive unit. There's like parts of it that really work, the parts of it that don't work quite as well. But overall, like I'm glad they're making a sequel. I hope it turns out well. I hope that it's more it's it's I hope everything comes together better.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I hope.
Yeah.
I don't know if it will, but that's what I hope.
So, Jack and Dexter is getting a PC port, but not by Sony, by by the fans. The problem, it's cool that they're doing this. I just wish they would have done this with Jack 2 and 3, the better games. But I guess I guess they probably want to do all of them just to have the entire trilogy. So of course you're gonna have to start with the
First one.
Jack. Yeah, the first one. Um,
Yeah.
but I enjoyed what was done with the Super Mario 64 port. Um, I thought that was pretty good with the with some of like the features that they added, like textures that matched the promotional art for the game. Finally at the point technology where some of the stuff that was on the box could, you know, the game could actually look like that. And then you have obviously ray tracing for RTX, which is interesting. It looks all right. It's a bit kind of janky, but it looks pretty decent for what they're trying to pull off. And I hope to see some of that stuff come to Jack and Dexter. And I like this trend of porting console games to PC. Uh, I'm sure sooner or later, these companies are gonna have a get a bug up their butt about it, and eventually it's gonna be a problem. But I guess enjoy it while it lasts.
I don't think unless if Sony actually does something about it, it's because they're probably planning on porting those games to PC themselves. But I don't see Sony going back. Like Sony is one of the most lax fucking companies when it comes to their legacy content. The only company that I see worse than them is Nintendo to an extent. Because Nintendo will sue people and then not do shit with it, which is even worse than just letting people do it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, I think that I mean I'm okay. Like I don't mind fans modding games and bringing them over, like reverse engineering games and bringing them over. I'm not against that. I'm actually
yeah,
quite happy that there's people doing that because there are people who might have never played Jack and Dexter, don't even know what that game is about. I'm pretty sure there are people who the only Naughty Dog games they ever played were Uncharted, or even people post Uncharted who the only Naughty Dog games they've played is fucking The Last of Us.
Yeah, yeah,
So for people to go back and have the option to play, the old ones, cool.
yeah, yeah. It looks like they're doing some interesting stuff with. It looks like Zelda. They got enough of the code to do a Ocarina of Time port to PC, so that should be interesting. They're doing interesting things with the N64 emulator, with upping the frame rate, graphical stuff.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well,
yeah,
I'd just be happy with them getting a locked frame rate of 30 frames per second or 60. Because that game on the N64 dips. Like that song, do the dip. When I
yeah,
dip, you dip. We dip. That's into like Mario 64 had frame rate dips, but it was still playable. But N64 Ocarina of Time, ooh, that game has some dips. Oh
yeah,
boy,
yeah.
like
That game's rough to go back to play, yeah, especially after playing the 3DS version. It's like, oh boy, can't go back to this.
I never
Uh,
played the 3DS version of
Ocarina of
Ocarina of
Time.
Time.
Yeah, because I know
Because I
how
was like, you're not adding any
you.
new content. It's just basically the same shit. I was like, I'm unimpressed. Like I think they included the master version, the master quest in there, and that was about it. I'm like, y'all didn't like
Yeah,
you
you were.
can't you still can't skip cutscenes.
Yeah, you talk about how you were burnt out on Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, I've played so much of it. It's like like you can reach a point where you play a game so much where it's like, do I want to play it again? And the answer is
Um,
no.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I hope it doesn't come to the point where you know there's lawsuits afoot, just because it seems like, well, I mean, at least the fans are willing to uh, preserve these games and give these games a shine that these companies just refuse to do.
Well, they can't legally. They have no legal precedent if these games were reverse engineered.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. They don't really have a leg to stand on, I
Yeah, the
guess.
game's reverse engineered. They have no legal precedent. They can't sue anyone because IBM back in the day tried to sue. Um, they tried to sue the Compaq for reverse engineering their their BIOS on their ROMs on their ROM chips, and they sued, and it was the Supreme Court basically said, look, if someone reverse engineers your code, um, then it's fair game.
I mean, it's just
So,
yeah, yeah, and if I mean, if they're using the source code, then they'll probably be in trouble. But a lot of this,
yeah, but if they look at the source code and they reverse engineer from the source code, which is what Compaq did, they didn't use the source code, but they reverse engineered it to run on other OSs. Then
so what is reverse engineering? Is it writing your own code to make it work the same as the
yeah,
original code? Oh,
yeah,
okay,
that's
that's
what
what.
that's what reverse code is. Basically, someone goes in and looks, it sees how the code of the original thing looks, and then they basically recreate it um, in their own coding language,
Oh, okay.
like their own way of doing it. So, if they reverse engineered this game to run on modern hardware, these games to run on modern hardware, then there's nothing Sony can do about it except be like, well, that's money we missed because we're too busy looking at the future of gaming and doing nothing with our back catalog of games, except
Yeah,
lazy
yeah.
ass HD ports that
I
look
mean,
like ass.
I mean, you would essentially have no choice but to reverse engineer reverse engineer a lot of the stuff, just because a lot of the I'm sure a lot of the older languages it'd be difficult for newer hardware to, or at least you would essentially have to brute force everything.
Yeah, plus a lot of games just like, even if you want a physical copy of a lot of games, there's no affordable way to play these games. Like, if you want to play an original version of Earthbound, good luck. Unless you have like 25, unless you have like 20, unless you have like $2,000 lying around.
Yeah,
Most people don't.
Earthbound is crazy expensive.
Yeah, and that's just for a loose copy. If you want something in the box with all the other stuff that goes with it, it's even more expensive.
Yeah.
So my point behind all this is to say this: if something is prohibitively expensive, like my rule of thumb is this: if something is prohibitively expensive, like a piece of content is prohibitively expensive, whoever holds the rights to it isn't making it available at a competitive and consumer friendly price. Then if people want to look at that, they can look at it any way they want, any way they can. That's the way I look at it. Like, some people are like, oh, that's piracy. I'm like, look, like, if you want to play a game and it's prohibitively expensive for you to play it, and on the original hardware, it's not being offered digitally, legitimately, then do what you got to do.
Yeah, I found I think I found a Earthbound complete. I think it's like the practically the complete set, and it goes for over $5,000.
Oh, there you
Now,
go. Even more expensive. There you
you're
go. Now, I have my
obviously
Earthbound set.
a loose case, like a loose cartridge,
Just
doesn't
the
have the
cartridge,
boxes.
yeah.
It goes for up to 500. So it's
Oh,
even the
okay.
just the
So that's the
cartridge
way.
packs.
So that's the way to get your Earthbound fix. If you got half a grand just lying around, there you go, folks.
Yeah, yeah, that's crazy.
That's all I'm saying. Like, I'm tired of people. How dare you? How dare you? How dare you fucking uh, you're stealing. I'm like, like, I want to. The way I look at it is like this: as a consumer, I want to buy something legitimately. I don't want to feel like I'm doing something illegal. But if you aren't making something available, but as a consumer, I want to consume it, what am I to do?
Yeah,
Like, look at it like this, okay? You want a pizza, okay? But Domino's doesn't deliver to where you live. Pizza doesn't deliver you where you live. None of the pizza places deliver to where you live. So you got two choices. You can go to the grocery store and get a frozen pizza, or you can make a pizza at home. That's it.
yep,
Those are your choices. And then that's like Domino's, the places that won't deliver to you getting mad that you got frozen pizza or made your own. And people getting mad because, oh, how could you make your own pizza? Because they don't deliver to where I live.
yeah,
Shit. I want to give you my money, but you just keep on acting like a bitch. So. But that's my opinion. I could be wrong.
yeah.
Probably am. I probably am wrong, but I don't give a shit.
And
Go ahead.
for our last topic, before free topic, Splinter's Revenge just released, and as some of you are able to see, that's the game that has been playing in the background as we've been talking. Uh, Pre-recorded footage of me playing the game. Uh, but in any case, I've been playing a lot of it. It's a pretty good game. It looks like a idealized Super Nintendo slash arcade game that played back in the what is it, late '80s, early '90s. So
Early 90s.
yeah, early '90s.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's pretty good. What do you think of it?
I think it's amazing. My little nitpicks that I had about the game, I actually got over. I'll save it for free topic for how I got over it. But yeah, it's great. My only downside with the game that I'm still kind of like is that the game kind of rewards you for playing aggressively, like 85% of the time.
Yeah.
Um, which I kind of have a problem with because TMNT in previous, like the Konami ones, the good ones, quote unquote, kind of rewarded you for playing a little bit less, like balancing it out with playing aggressively and being more aware of enemy patterns, stuff like that. This game, you pretty much if you bum rush most of the foot soldiers, you're going to be fine. Which
Uh,
kind of
how does that?
eh,
I haven't played the hard mode. Does that change in hard mode? The hardest
been
mode?
playing. I've been playing in normal mode because there's easy, normal, and hard, and I've been playing in normal mode, which normal mode, like I said, feels kind of hard.
Yeah.
I haven't played easy. Normal mode feels kind of hard. I guess the next mode would be even harder. But
Well,
like the foot
there's
soldiers are very aggressive, so if you try to play defensively, they will bum rush you. But if you're just bum rushing them and just like constantly moving around and using your dodge rolls and stuff like that, the game is like not that bad. The only
I
thing
mean,
is that if I'm playing through the arcade through the story mode and getting some of those conditions while you're underpowered is kind of difficult. Like, oh, you have to go through this level without taking any damage. It's like, well, I can do that up until the boss. Yeah,
well,
shit.
well, the thing is, I think the foot soldiers, yeah, you can basically bum rush them, but I don't really feel like that when it comes to some of the bigger robots, like the dinosaur robots, and
I haven't gotten that
I
far
think
yet.
yeah, there are certain enemies there are certain enemies that you can't just like bulldoze your way through.
I haven't gotten that
Like,
far yet.
oh, okay.
So let me put an asterisk next to that. Thus far, I've discovered that I'm enjoying the game, but I think that the difficulty is like the way it's designed. I feel like it's at least for me in the beginning. It seems like it rewards more of an offensive gameplay style versus being a little bit more methodical in how you play it. But it might change further on in the game. I don't know.
So what level are you on?
I'm only in like the fourth area. Like I
Oh,
just hit
okay.
the zoo because I've been
Oh,
taking
okay.
my time. Plus, I modded it, which I'll save for free topic, to
Oh,
make it
okay.
a little bit more enjoyable for me. And I've been really enjoying it now that I've modded it on PC.
All right. Well, I think the game is pretty good. Yeah, some of those conditions are pretty tough to meet. Meet. I mean, even if you are able to, even if you are able to get through, the main part of the game or the level without dying, you still have to deal with the boss. And sometimes it's not always easy to beat the boss without taking a hit, unless you've played through the boss slash the level several times and you have leveled up your character. Uh, but yeah, the controls feel really nice. Um, Also, I like the a lot of the options pertaining to how you can fight. Um, but yeah, I mean, right. I mean, yeah, the game rewards you for playing aggressively for essentially bum rushing the soldiers. But once you get to a certain point, there's certain enemies that just it doesn't it, it doesn't really work. Uh, just rushing them and hoping you just knock them over. Um, but yeah, you'll see once you get further into the game. But yeah, just head on the free topic. So, what's your free topic?
Okay, so my free topic is this. I was having some issues with the game. I didn't like the opening theme. I didn't like that guy's cover of the TMNT theme because let me put it this way: for the people who are like 2 or 3, maybe 5 years younger than me, their shit that they grew up with was Power Rangers. Me, the shit I grew up with was TMNT. Love that shit. Went as a turtle for like 4 or 5 years of my Halloweens. Went as a turtle. Like 3 times as Leonardo and 1 time as Michelangelo. No, yeah, Michelangelo. So huge TMNT fan. Know a lot of the lore, know a lot of the side characters. Had actually still have a ton of the fucking toys. Okay, and I fucking hate the cover of the theme song they had. So I changed it using a mod to the original, and it fits perfectly. I caught some footage of it that I basically shoved into recorded using my Radeon. Comes with my Radeon graphics. After
Yeah.
that, I wasn't finished. I changed the sprites of the characters to put them more in line with Turtles in Time.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And then I changed the music of the game because the new music is okay, but I changed it back to the shit they had in the Konami games back in the day.
Oh okay.
Because if I'm gonna play a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game that feels like a throwback to that era, I don't like their take on the music. Like I want to hear the Konami shit. So that's what I have planned.
What?
So
How did you? How were you able to mod the game?
I went to Nexus Mod. Someone's already done it. This game's been out for 2 or 3 days.
So
No,
there's
for like
already-
5 days, and just downloaded it and put it in there. So my point is this. Um, yeah, the best way to play this game's on PC, so you can mod the ever-loving shit out of it for the experience you want. I like mechanically, I really do enjoy the game, but I don't like some of these audio and character design choices they made. But there's mods for that. Aside
Yeah.
from that,
Yeah.
um, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm loving the
That's
game.
yeah, that's pretty cool. Um, yeah, I'll definitely have to check those out.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Playing. No, go ahead. Sorry.
no, you can go ahead.
No, I just was gonna say playing this game is amazing with the mods making it feel like it's a long lost Konami era. Um, beat 'em up, from Konami. Just like an idealized version of it, and I'm enjoying it.
So
That's it.
okay. So my free topic is that somebody a couple days ago um decided to mod their PS5 to make it slimmer. The channel I watch every once in a while, DIY perks. Um, does some interesting modifications. Like he did I think like a portable monitor. Um, like I think he took an old laptop and made an AIO computer out of it, and he did this kind of this art project where he made his own sort of like open air wooden case to the open air wooden case for his PC. Did that a few years ago. So he also did a stealthy PS5 video. Um, he also does experimental stuff, like a did like this weird wind device with the with you know basically it's this weird wind uh, cooling system that he did with this. with a computer. It wasn't all that successful, but it was interesting nonetheless. So what he did was he essentially just took apart the PS5 and basically put it in a giant heat sink. The case is a giant heat sink. It'd be pretty expensive to do because the case is mainly made out of copper. Uh, so copper is pretty expensive. Probably like he said in the video, it costs as much. It costs as much as the PS5. Um, but there was a lot he had to do to get this thing to work. It actually, he actually ended up botching it, and something went wrong, and the console overheated. So he had to use a different PS5 uh, motherboard. Ultimately, it was a turned out to be a success. The cooling was even uh, once he got it right. The cooling was even better than it was with the original PS5 because again, it, it's essentially a giant heatsink. The motherboard and stuff is essentially encased in a giant heatsink. So I don't know if you've seen this.
Saw the video advertised because I think we kind of watched the same people. I kind of felt it was kind of like I thought it was cool when I first. I haven't watched the video, but I saw the thing, and I'm like, uh, I initially had I think that's going to be a real. There's going to be a heat issue because the like all of these consoles are basically mini PCs,
Yeah,
and they produce a lot of heat. Like even the Switch produces a lot of heat.
yeah.
Um, so when I saw that, I was like, I don't know how the heck they're gonna pull that off, but
I am like I said, he there was something that ended up going wrong with the process where he had essentially use a different uh, PS5 motherboard because the way the heat was transferring from the motherboard to the heatsink
efficient.
wasn't doing it right. Yeah, it wasn't efficient, and
Yeah,
he had to change things up. He eventually got it to work, but yeah, there was a lot to make this thing make this thing function.
functional. Yeah, yeah. That's where I'm kind of like I'm like, okay, this is cool and all, but unfortunately, just for me personally, I'm just not really like. I'm like, cool. I know he probably did it as an exercise of, as just a learning experience, or just trying to help somebody out. But I'm just kind of like I'm like, I feel the same way about this, the way I feel about Sony talking about how they're gonna like freaking like, Sony's like, oh, we're gonna do we're gonna release a new controller for the PS5. I'm like, you guys can barely keep PS5s in stock, and you're selling controllers. What's wrong with you?
Yeah,
But that
yeah.
bothers me on a personal level. I'm just like, how are you? I was kind of angry. This dude took a perfectly good PS5, and now no one can use it.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but it's I don't know. I mean, I like watching these crazy experiments with the. Because I watch a lot of Linus Tech Tips where they do weird experiments with, computers and stuff. But
Yeah, I mean, I like watching tech channels, but mostly with retro tech. So I'll watch like Adrian's Digital Basement, stuff like that,
yeah,
because I like seeing people do stuff like that. Because I'm just like, oh, this is cool. But on a personal level, I don't like people taking perfectly useful tech that could be used for something and doing weird stuff to it. Unless it's in like plentiful abundance. Like if someone wants to mod a Switch, you can get a Switch. People can barely get a PS5 right now.
yeah, I can see
So
I
I
can see why
kind of have a
people.
problem with that. But
I can see
it's
why
this
people.
dude's channel. He can do whatever the hell he wants. But
Yeah, yeah,
that's where I kind of have a problem. But I mean, hey, man, like I said, to each his own. I mean, it didn't do anything for me, but everyone has their own, how they feel about stuff.
yeah,
Um, but I mean, it's cool. I mean, like I said, it's a major heat thing. I think if Sony really wants to do some stuff, what they probably need to do is with the next, because they're going to make another PS whatever. Their best bet will probably be to like maybe have some type of heat sink for it. You know, like an addition, like something you can put it on that'll make it you know cooler.
yeah,
All these consoles have issues.
yeah. Especially their controllers, because they keep buying their joysticks from the same manufacturer. That's why.
All of
That's
them
why
do
they.
that.
Yeah,
That's why you have all that drift because they went cheap. Everyone went cheap, and yet they're charging people $70 more for all these consoles. I mean, for all these controllers.
yeah. I mean, like I said before, he was able to with the PS5 Slim, even though it was botched up, but he actually got it down because the PS5 Slim is roughly 46C, uh, and then 65C internally, 46C outside, and then you have the original PS5, which was 75C. Uh, She's able to get it down, temperature down significantly. It's just the amount of effort that we put in to do that, and the amount of money, because the materials all together cost a little over $300. The the copper the copper chassis for the system. So anyway, it was a neat project. I found it interesting, but kind of annoying. I mean, I can see why people are annoyed, especially with having a hard time finding a PS5. But anyway, is there anything else you'd like to bring up before we call it a night?
That's it.
Is that
Yeah, I got
all
nothing.
right?
I got nothing except I'm gonna pimp out my one podcast. Used to have two, but my schedule changed, so we're gonna have one. It's on Wednesdays. I guess we'll combine some of the news with so we'll do a hole of the week and unpopular opinion on Wednesday. So that'll be fun.
Sounds good. Sounds good. And, yeah, I'll Project Console Tuesday nights, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. This has been Project Console. 3 times 1 equals 7. Have a good night. Have a good week. Have a good weekend. And have a good life. See you guys next week. Peace.
All right. So, how have you been enjoying